Yes, but definitely. information, and I want to request all delegates that have not presented their proper credentials to please take necessary action to do so. And in this regard, if you are confronted with a number of issues, please continue to consult with Mr. Benoit Verhagen. All right? We also take note that the committee recommends that the Assembly permit all the delegates to participate in its deliberation until when we will consider items that require duly submitted credentials. Now we can proceed to item 6, election of the President of the Assembly. This is the second item of the other business for this afternoon. And I would like to invite delegations to present nominations. Mexico. Can you give the mic to Mexico, please?
Gracias, Presidente.
Thank you, Mr. President. We had a slight technical problem with the mic. I have the honor to offer the candidature of Mr. Dato Sri Asmauddin Abdul Rahman, Director General of Civil Aviation of Malaysia, to preside the work of the 39th Assembly of ICAO. Mr. Abdul Rahman has a master's in air transport management from Cambridge University in the UK, and he has great professional experience. He started working in 1981 as a maintenance engineer for aircraft. Since 2008, he has served as in the DGCA in Malaysia, and from 2004 to 2006, he was air navigation director of his country. His contributions to international aviation are numerous, and I will just cite a few of them. He chaired the high-level technical group for the MH370 flight incident and was an investigator for the MH17 accident. He was a member of the Independent Audit Committee for auditing the safety of Kuala Lumpur Airport. He was a member of the Malaysian delegation to ICAO assemblies in 2007, 2010, and 2013, where his state was elected. Mr. Abdul Rahman is a highly qualified candidate to lead the work of the 39th session of the Assembly. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Mexico, for this nomination. Are there any other proposals or secondments? Portugal.
Thank you, Mr. President. Portugal fully supports the nomination presented by Mexico. Dato Sri Asmauddin Abdul Rahman, Director General of Civil Aviation of Malaysia, has a long and vast experience in the civil aviation sector, and he is leading the Directorate of Civil Aviation of Malaysia for more than 8 years. The experience and leadership skills of Dato Sri Asmauddin Abdul Rahman make him the right person to be elected as President of the 39th session of the Assembly. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Portugal. Nigeria.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Nigeria is very pleased to announce and move and second the motion as moved by Mexico. I'm fully supported, and we thank you for the privilege.
Thank you, Nigeria. Colombia.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Colombia fully supports the candidature of Mr. Abdul Rahman. We know that his experience and lengthy career in civil aviation will help him do this task in an excellent fashion. Thank you.
Thank you, Colombia. Egypt, please.
شكرا السيد الرئيس. تحية.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to welcome the members who have assisted. I would like to support the motion by Mexico. Thank you.
Thank you, Egypt. Sudan.
السودان أيضا يود أن يدعم المقترح.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sudan would also like to support the motion by Mexico. We believe that the choice of Mr. Abdul Rahman will have a favorable impact on the work of this assembly. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Sudan. Dear delegates, I declare Mr. Azaruddin Abdurrahman elected as president of the 39th session of the Assembly of ICAO. I wish to congratulate him on behalf of all of us, and I wish to invite him to the podium to take his seat.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The President of the ICAO Council, Madam Secretary General, Honorable Ministers, Heads of Delegation, ladies and gentlemen. It is with this sense of honor, humility, and with gratitude to God Almighty that I take the chair as the President of the 39th session of the ICAO General Assembly. I am deeply honored for the trust and confidence placed upon me as the President of this 39th Assembly. Particularly thankful for the nomination by Mexico and seconded by Portugal, Nigeria, Colombia, Egypt, and Sudan. As I see the role of the President of the Assembly should be as a facilitator, conciliator, and consensus builder. He must lead, and I try to do so. But without the support of you, the delegates of this Assembly, that leadership will ultimately fail. During this Assembly, we may have to make hard and at times unpleasant decisions. This decision requires a spirit of dialogue and cooperation from all of us. I will make every effort to chair the Assembly in an effective manner. I harbor no illusions about quick solutions. It is often the practical and small things which count and ultimately lead to the solutions. In delivering this important task, I seek your support and assistance. It is fervent hope that everyone work together during this Assembly. Let us not be afraid of the difficulties and uncertainties ahead. Instead, let us move forward through cooperation, mutual understanding, and trust among us. I also like to congratulate in advance those who are about to be elected as vice presidents and chairpersons of the commissions. My warmest congratulations to all of them. Once again, I'd extend my very warm thank you to all delegates. Please be rest assured that we spare no efforts to ensure that this 39th session of the ICAO Assembly will be geared towards meeting the demands of the aviation fraternity. Thank you. So let us now proceed to item 3 of the order of business. The item 3, agenda item 7, election of the 4 vice presidents of the Assembly and chairpersons of commissions. We will go first to the election of the vice presidents. I now wish to invite nominations for the post of the 4 vice presidents. Are there any nominations? Singapore.
Thank you. May I first take the opportunity to congratulate our good friend Dato Sri Azharuddin on his appointment as President of the 39th session of the ICAO Assembly. At this time, we also like to thank Dr. Aliu and Dr. Liu Fang for the very excellent work in organizing this very complex event and preparations that have been leading up to it. We would like to nominate the following 4 persons as Vice Presidents. First Vice President, Ms. Ingrid Scherfels, who is Civil Aviation and Maritime Director of the Swedish Transport Agency and ICAO President. Ms. Scherfels has close to 20 years of experience in the Swedish Civil Aviation Administration. As Second Vice President, Mr. Habib Mekki, DGCA Tunisia. Mr. Mekki has 6 years of experience as DG. As Third Vice President, Mr. Carlos Velasquez, who is the Director General of the Guatemala Civil Aviation Authority and President of LACAC. Mr. Velasquez is an experienced pilot with over a decade of overseas working experience. And finally, as Fourth Vice President, Ms. Sarah Wiebe, Director General, Air Policy, Transport Canada. Ms. Wiebe has 15 years of extensive experience in the Canadian public service. Thank you.
Thank you, Singapore. Do we have any statements in support of this nomination? Russian Federation.
Спасибо, господин председатель.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I'd like to congratulate you on behalf of the Russian delegation on your election to such a high position. And we support your call for constructive work during the General Assembly session. We support the proposal by our colleague from Singapore, and for the election of the 4 vice presidents. Thank you.
Thank you, Russian Federation. Is there any more nominations or any more secondment to this Singapore's proposal? If there's none, and I see no more requests, so I declare the 4 nominations by Singapore as the first, second, third, and fourth Vice President of the Assembly. We now go to the election of the chairperson of commissions. The commissions are Technical Commission, Economic Commission, Legal Commission, and Administrative Commission. I now wish to invite nomination for the post of the 4 chairpersons. Are there any nomination? I see United Arab Emirates.
شكرا سيد الرئيس. السيد
Thank you, Mr. President. President of the Assembly, President of the Council, Mr. Abdul Rahman, your appointment as President of this Assembly is a blessing. We put our full trust in you, and we know we will not be disappointed. Mr. President of the Council, Secretary General, Your Excellencies, heads of delegation, ladies and gentlemen, I convey my greetings. First and foremost, on behalf of the government of the United Arab Emirates, I would like to express my thanks to ICAO, its administration, and the Council of ICAO for preparing for this assembly. I would also like to thank Canada, its people, and its government for extending all the necessary facilities to welcome the delegations. I am pleased to recommend the following candidates to chair the various commissions. Mr. Grim Harris, the New Zealand DG for the Technical Commission. Jeffrey Busalisto Mushadisha, Executive Director of Civil Aviation of Botswana, to chair the Economic Commission. Alefwa Quaranta, Director General of ENAC of Italy, to chair the Legal Commission. Mr. Jorge Felix Casribiabas, Director of Air Transport of Cuba, to chair the Administrative Commission. Thank you, Mr. President.
Shukran, UAE. Thank you. And do we have statements, any response to this nomination by United Arab Emirates, Dominican Republic?
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and good afternoon to all. The delegation of the Dominican Republic is very pleased to commend you on your appointment as president of this illustrious assembly. Likewise, we would extend our congratulations to the 4 vice presidents, and I have the honor to second the proposal by my distinguished friend and colleague from the United Arab Emirates for the chairs of the Technical, Economic, Legal, and Administrative Commissions. I believe that these colleagues who are being put forward to chair the commissions have the experience, dedication, and commitment to international civil aviation that is required, and I have no doubt whatsoever that they will successfully lead the work of those commissions. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Dominican Republic. Is there any more secondment, any more nomination to the chairperson of the commissions? And I see none, and there's no more requests. I therefore declare the nomination presented by United Arab Emirates and seconded by Dominican Republic to be the chairperson of the commissions. I would like to repeat the names of the 4 vice presidents to the assembly: Ms. Ingrid Sheffield, Sweden; Mr. Habib Meki, Tunisia; Mr. Carlos Velasquez, Guatemala; and Ms. Sarah Webb, Canada. And the chairperson of Technical Commission, Mr. Graham Harris, New Zealand. Economic Commission will be chaired by Mr. Geoffrey Mushabesha, Botswana. Legal Commission, Chairperson Mr. Alessio Quaranta, Italy, and the Administrative Commission, Mr. Jorge de la Paz, Cuba. We will now go to agenda item 8, statements by delegation of the member states. Allow me to remind presenters that the oral presentation should only focus on the agenda items and be no longer than 5 minutes. The Assembly will begin with statements from states who have made special requests, following which we will proceed with the alphabetical order as requested by the member states. may I call upon United States of America to the floor.
Good afternoon, everyone. Madam Secretary General and distinguished colleagues, it's an honor to represent the United States at the 39th Assembly of the International Civil Aviation Organization. Congratulations to the Director General from Malaysia and President Aliyu. I want to thank you for all you have done and continue to do to advance the universal goals of safety and security in air transportation. For 72 years, ICAO has encouraged consensus, progress, and growth in international aviation. As a member state, we are grateful. Today alone, more than 100,000 commercial flights worldwide will carry 10 million passengers and $17.5 billion worth of goods. At the same time, air travel is safer and more reliable than ever. But as we enjoy this unprecedented growth and progress, we must also confront new challenges. I would like to spend my few minutes highlighting issues that are important to the United States and that we believe ultimately will affect all member states. First, we must agree on a comprehensive approach to achieving carbon neutral growth. Climate change is one of the greatest long-term threats to our planet, to our children, and future generations. President Obama made environmental stewardship a key focus of his administration and is in full support of international efforts to reduce carbon emissions. I would like to recognize ICAO's leadership in seeking to achieve carbon neutral growth through a basket of measures. These measures include technical and operational enhancements, alternative fuel options, and the development of a global market-based measure. The United States applauds ICAO and the Council's historic endorsement of a groundbreaking resolution to adopt a global market-based measure. We welcome early participation in the scheme by almost 60 states, representing over 80% of aviation activity, and strongly urge all nations to support this comprehensive plan. Second, we must work together to safely integrate unmanned aircraft systems into the global aviation system. Unmanned or remotely piloted aviation systems are developing at an unprecedented rate. Collaborating with industry, the United States has taken a leadership role in developing a framework of regulations that ensure safety while fostering continued innovation in the growing marketplace for these aircraft. We look forward to working with member states as the international community addresses this issue on a global basis. Third, ICAO made a difficult but sound decision last year by temporarily banning the shipment of lithium-ion batteries aboard passenger aircraft. We urge member states to enforce this prohibition, not just against airline operators, but against shippers, the forwarders, and everyone else involved in the transport of these potentially dangerous goods. Fourth, we must establish a roadmap for ICAO and its member states for effective crisis management. We all experience man-made or natural crises, and the United States historically has supported its neighbors in responding to situations that hinder civil aviation. We will present a working paper on this issue and urge this Assembly to thoughtfully consider our proposed actions. Fifth, and finally, the United States continues to support the ICAO Global Air Navigation, Global Aviation Safety, and the Global Aviation Security Plans as the frameworks for improving aviation safety, security, and efficiency. However, the process by which ICAO standards and recommended practices are maintained
must be reviewed frequently and adapted as necessary to accommodate the evolving needs of member states. We look forward to working with all of you to support the outcomes of the 39th Assembly and remain committed to the development of our skies while reducing our carbon footprint. Thank you very much.
Thank you, United States. China.
Mr. President, fellow delegates, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon to all. First of all, I would like to congratulate DGC of Malaysia for being president. I'm very glad to lead the Chinese delegation to attend the 39th session of ICAO Assembly and discuss with representatives of civil aviation from countries all over the world the strategies for development of global civil aviation. The recent years have witnessed a great performance of the global air transport industry. The civil aviation sector of China in particular has maintained strong growth and represented as one of the most dynamic areas in the world up to now. China has created the longest ever safety cycle in civil aviation and has for more than 30 consecutive years maintained a two-digit growth rate. In the first half of this year, its total traffic turnover increased by 12.5%, in which international traffic registered an increase rate of 18.7%. While developing in a fast and safe manner, China has always adhered to green development and dedicated to improvement of energy efficiency, reduction of emissions, improvement of quality, and enhancement of effectiveness. In the last 3 years, a total of 3.85 million kilometers flight distance has been shortened and 65,000 tons of CO2 emissions reduced. 2016 marks the commencement of the 13th five-year plan period and the start of a new chapter of civil aviation in China. In the next 5 years, China will strive to make progress in both transport aviation and general aviation, further improve networks of airports, networks of routes, and operation information monitoring, and will make special effort in our weaker areas as airspace resources, service qualities, airworthiness certification capabilities, emergency responses, in order that they can parallel with other aspects. By 2020, the share of China's traffic will increase by 4% in world's total. Civil aviation is an industry with strong international nature. In the era of globalization, no country or region can develop aviation in isolation. China cannot develop without the world, and the world cannot develop without China. In the next 5 years, China will be a strong supporter of ICAO's No Country Left Behind initiative and will work to further expand and deepen international cooperation in the following areas. First, in aviation safety, we are willing to share with countries our experience in civil aviation safety management, and by using the platform of ICAO's Aviation Safety Assistance Partnership Program, carry out assistance programs in order to enhance the global aviation safety level. Secondly, in air transport aspect, we will comprehensively enhance international cooperation. China has so far concluded bilateral air service agreements with more than 119 countries. China will continue to follow liberalization and adopt a more open policy on traffic rights. And we will expand traffic rights arrangements in an active, progressive, orderly, and assured manner, with special attention to move forward air transport liberalization and facilitation with other countries along One Belt and Road and satisfy the needs of development of air transport of these countries and regions. Thirdly, in the aircraft airworthiness certification, China has so far established with 27 countries and regions bilateral cooperation in this area. We will further enhance cooperation in this field, and at the same time, we will, within the framework of ICAO, enhance multilateral cooperation in airworthiness certification and promote mutual acceptance of airworthiness certificates and certification findings and promote the global development of manufacturing industry. Fourthly, in air traffic management, we will continue to strengthen cooperation exchanges with ICAO and other member states and upgrade the existing ATM capability. The Beidou satellite navigation system developed by China has been identified by ICG as one of the 4 core service providers. We will work with ICAO and the member states in a joint effort to expand the application of Beidou system in civil aviation and offer China navigation services to global aviation community. Ladies and gentlemen, as a Part 1 Council member state, China has always adhered to the Convention of International Civil Aviation and faithfully fulfilled its international obligations. In the past 3 years, China has made in total $2.25 million voluntary contribution, trained in cooperation with ICAO more than 400 aviation professionals for other developing countries, and seconded more than 50 experts and professionals to ICAO. China is an active supporter of ICAO's No Country Left Behind initiative, and we are ready to work with ICAO and member states for a safer, more efficient, greener, more open, and harmonious sky. Finally, I wish the 39th session of ICAO Assembly a complete success, and thank you all.
This is China. Thank you. Countries to speak so that they are prepared with their notes. After Slovakia, European Union, Malaysia, then Mexico. Slovakia, please.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished delegates, and ladies and gentlemen. I'm honored to address you, Mr. President, on behalf of all of my European colleagues, to thank you and your colleagues for the excellent preparation of this Assembly and to offer our full support in achieving a successful outcome. Let me congratulate you on your election as President of this 39th Assembly, and I believe that you are in your good hands to lead us through the coming 2 weeks. With your permission, Mr. President, I would like to pass the floor on to Mrs. Violeta Bulc, member of the European Commission responsible for transport, to make few remarks regarding our work for the next 2 weeks. Thank you very much.
Thank you. European Union.
President, Madam Secretary General, distinguished guests, delegates, dear friends of aviation, I'm honored and privileged to address you here today. Over the next 2 weeks, we will collectively shape the future of international aviation. It is in this spirit that I wish to affirm that Europe will continue to work with all at this Assembly and beyond. Allow me now to highlight Europe's view on the core topics. First, safety. Safety, as always, remains our top priority, and I'm inviting you to build on the success of high-level safety conference in 2015. Security is also another essential topic. We are dedicated to continue engaging with all of you towards a more secure aviation system. Third, on air navigation and air traffic management. I'm pleased to report that Europe is implementing the Global Air Navigation Plan that includes a clear policy and institutional framework, Single European Sky, with an effective tool via CSAR. I invite the Assembly to also tackle other issues with a comprehensive approach, notably for cyber resilience and drones. Ladies and gentlemen, let me state that Europe will continue to work with you in delivering on No Country Left Behind initiative. This brings me to the fourth important issue, climate change. There is no other way to put it. We are at a historic junction. Let us not dwell on the mistakes of the past, but build on the momentum of COP21 and focus on the road ahead. As you know, emissions from international aviation are growing at an unsustainable rate. Let's be clear. Europe welcomes the growth of traveling. And precisely because of that, and in support of the Paris Agreement, aviation should contribute to global efforts to tackle climate change, as reminded by the United Nations Secretary General. It can also encourage others to follow. I know that in the past, different regions developed at a different pace, but what matters now is that the agreement today shows us our common future. Therefore, Europe is inviting this Assembly to adopt a credible, robust, and effective GMBM to achieve carbon-neutral growth from 2020. Let me also reaffirm Europe's intention to join the scheme from the start. We also call on the states who can to join the GMBM from the beginning and announce it before the end of the Assembly. This is history in making. Why not be part of this history from the start? Moreover, I wish to confirm that the EU fully supports the implementation of the scheme through concrete efforts. Allow me to inform you that yesterday I signed a joint declaration with ICAO to support the GMBM scheme through financial assistance and capacity building projects. Since 2013, ICAO and the European Commission have cooperated on a highly successful CO2 mitigation project of 6.5 million euros, which is why, upon the Assembly's adoption of the GMBM, the EU will upgrade its existing support and provide assistance of a similar magnitude. In addition to these projects, the EU has launched an external investment plan of 44 billion euros, focusing on Africa and European neighborhoods where transport will play a key role. Over the past 3 years, significant work has been done, and I really want to thank President Dr. Aliyu and the Secretary General Dr. Liu and their teams for all their efforts in taking the process forward through a very, very decisive leadership. Distinguished delegates, President, cooperation, collaboration, and partnership in the global aviation community are the keys to addressing common challenges. Allow me to reaffirm that Europe will continue to work with all of you so that indeed no country is left behind. In the eyes of nature, there is no difference between companies and individuals, CEOs and workers, countries and continents. We are all citizens of the same world. So at the end of these negotiations, I really want all of us to be winners. We only have one planet Earth, with one ecosystem that we need to collectively care for. So let us reach an agreement by coming together and delivering what is expected of us. Let me assure you that the support and assistance will be given to those that need it. Thank you.
Thank you, European Union. Call upon Malaysia.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished delegates. Very good afternoon. Congratulations to Dr. Sri Azharuddin being elected as President of the Assembly and the 4 Vice Presidents. On behalf of the Government of Malaysia, it is an honor to address this 39th Assembly of ICAO. It is good to be back here to meet with old friends and build ties with the new ones. We stand here today believing there is great strength in unity and a message, together we fly. I strongly believe ICAO's role is essential in order to shape the future of global aviation. Mr. President, Excellencies, In 58 years as a member nation of ICAO, Malaysia has seen tremendous growth with a strong commitment to the initiative by both government and industry players. The Malaysian Department of Civil Aviation is evolving into a fully autonomous and self-sustaining civil aviation authority, ensuring alignment with ICAO's strategic objective of sustainable growth, safety, and security. The Malaysian Aviation Commission, MAVCOM, was established as an independent aviation economic regulatory body in March 2016 to promote a commercially viable, consumer-oriented, and resilient civil aviation industry which support the nation's economic growth. These two bodies will ensure to expedite the evolutions of Malaysia into a regional aviation hub. With dramatic growth, 86.5 million passengers and 1 million tons of air cargo in 2015, we are investing in the new Air Traffic Control Center, which will enhance air traffic management in both Peninsular and East Malaysia. The Malaysian aerospace industry, with 159 active companies, is expected to generate in excess of USD 13 billion in revenue and provide more than 32,000 skilled jobs by 2030. Mr. President, Excellencies, as air passenger traffic rises, so must our vigilance. Safety and security are all the more important with the rise in terrorism and cyber threats. We did not have to be reminded now how important these policies and procedures are following the unprecedented tragedies of MH370 and MH17. And we know that what we do here in Montreal now will help ensure that the world does not see a repeat of those catastrophes. I've traveled across the globe, appealing to nations to enhance standards and strengthen international cooperation to improve safety and security in global civil aviation on two key issues: real-time global tracking of commercial aircraft, the risk to civil aviation flying in conflict zone. Malaysia has actively participated in the ICAO task force that has led to the mandatory requirement of real-time tracking of passengers aircraft. We are also heavily engaged in the task force to ensure no other planes suffer the fate of MH17 when flying over a conflict zone. These initiatives are not optional. They will save lives. Mr. President, Excellencies, I strongly believe that we must address the environmental challenges and sustainability. Malaysia is committed to 2020 goal of reducing carbon emission by 40%, a challenge we can meet together. To that end, we have pledged to support ICAO's global market-based measures. Malaysia is proud to participate in the pilot phase of the carbon offsetting and reduction scheme based on a draft assembly resolution. Mr. President, Excellency, Malaysia has signed agreements with the Civil Aviation Commission in Europe, Africa, Latin America, and the Arabian states to train aviation personnel under the Malaysian Technical Cooperation Program. Malaysian Aviation Academy, MAVA, has attained full membership status in the ICAO Train Air Plus program network and is working continuously to enhance capacity, technical expertise, and skill development. MAVA has fully sponsored and trained nearly 400 aviation personnel from 71 countries. This is a testament to Malaysia's support of ICAO's No Country Left Behind and the Next Generation of Aviation Personnel initiative. Mr. President, Excellencies, our participation across the board leaves no doubt that Malaysia is an active and committed member of ICAO. We have made financial and technical contributions towards initiative, including the COSCAP Southeast Asia and SCAPS Asia Pacific, as well as ICAO FSEC Fund and the AFI Safety Fund. Most importantly, we know that ICAO unity is paramount and believe that together we fly is not just an exam. Mr. President, Excellencies, the government of Malaysia has submitted our candidacy to the Council of ICAO, and I stand here before you asking for your support. It is our sincere hope that you recognize our contributions and support Malaysia's continued memberships on the Council. Once again, it has been an honor to address this Assembly. Thank you.
Thank you, Malaysia, Mexico, and after Mexico, we Russian Federation, Saudi Arabia, and South Africa. Mexico, please.
Gracias.
Thank you, Mr. President. President of the Council, Secretary General, distinguished ministers, and deputy ministers, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honor to take part in the 39th Assembly of the International Civil Aviation Organization and voice Mexico's commitment once again to the principles and goals of the organization. Over almost 70 years, ICAO has ensured the orderly development of international civil aviation on the basis of the best principles and safety standards, and has promoted rules to promote equal opportunity, taking into account the different levels of development of the countries. The industry of aviation is a pillar of an interconnected world, and easy and free movement of people, goods, and capital are keys to competitiveness, productivity, and social well-being. The industry has a huge challenge. Aviation has to enhance its productivity and connectivity, ensure safety, and mitigate the negative impact on the environment. To achieve this, the cooperation of the member states of this important organization is crucial. Air transport must continue to be an efficient means of transport that is sustainable, but above all, it must be the safest mode of travel. Since the last ICAO Assembly, Mexico has been working very closely with the Council so as to achieve the strategic objectives that were set for the triennium that is now ending. We welcome and recognize that progress made in the global plans for safety and air navigation, which set out priorities and implementation targets, as well as in both the GASP and the GAMP. Inclusion in the work program of actions to assess risk, promote innovation, and ensure cybersecurity will help us achieve the shared goal of improving aviation safety around the world. Mexico reiterates its commitment to cooperate with ICAO in these areas. Our country recognizes the major standard-setting role of the organization, and we believe that worldwide and regional implementation of standards, recommended practices, and air navigation programs, as well as activities in support of the No Country Left Behind initiative, are fundamental if we are to achieve the safe, orderly development of air transport at the global level. In Mexico, we have introduced strategic programs to certify on the basis of international standards air operations, airports, workshops, training centers, and service providers. And much progress has been made thanks to the support of industry. We acknowledge the distinguished work of ICAO in trying to reach an agreement on market-based measures to offset carbon dioxide emissions from aviation. Mexico will support the draft resolution to be presented by Council to the Assembly, and we can confirm that we will participate on a voluntary basis from the outset in the scheme. This global scheme will prevent aviation growth being hindered by proliferation of uncoordinated schemes. with regard to training. This is a core element in safety and efficiency of aviation. In Mexico, the International Airport and Auxiliary Services Training Center uses ICAO guidance and enhances the training of air traffic controllers and safety personnel. And soon we will be opening a training center for pilots in Latin America, which will have special programs for learning to fly Airbus 320s. Distinguished delegates, Mexico is a founding member, and we hope to have the invaluable support of all countries on its re-election to the Council in Group 2. We can assure you that we will continue working closely with ICAO and its member states so as to contribute to the safe and orderly development of air transport in an environmentally respectful way. We want to step up our participation and cooperation because we are dedicated to the development of Mexican aviation, which is experiencing some of its best times. Ladies and gentlemen, the government of Mexico reiterates its commitment to ICAO in seeking to achieve the goals of the 21st century. We want to achieve better safety, efficiency of air navigation, and sustainable development. We want to foster competitiveness, and we want to help build nations that are more prosperous and inclusive. Thank you.
Gracias, Mexico. Thank you. Before I call upon the Russian Federation, I hope the speakers will be brief and straight to the point on their speaking notes, as we would like to allow as many ministers to speak during this session. Now I call upon the Russian Federation.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, Secretary General, delegates, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Russian Federation, I am pleased to welcome all participants and observers in this ICAO Assembly. And I would like to express my sincere hope that our work will be conducted in the spirit of mutual understanding and cooperation. I think that we all understand our responsibility to future generations for the sustainable development of the global air transport system, with the highest priority being its safety. I would like to assure the delegates that the Russian Federation will consistently make concrete proposals for actions aimed at the unconditional fulfillment of all provisions of the Convention on International Civil Aviation. The Convention urges all states to develop aviation in a safe and orderly manner, and that international air transport services may be established on the basis of equality of opportunity. We raise our hats with respect to the courage shown by the ICAO's founders, who, in the first beginning of the convention, stated that the future development of international civil aviation can greatly help to create and preserve friendship and understanding among the nations and peoples of the world. Yet its abuse can become a threat to the general security. And so these words are particularly timely now. The most recent triennium was associated with a series of tragic events that had a direct impact on civil aviation activity. These events led to a considerable loss of human lives. The problem of terrorism is today, again, one of the main threats for the aviation sector. Now more than ever before, we need to unite states' efforts to combat it. Unfortunately, however, we have seen that often, while purporting to be fighting terrorism, in reality, there are attempts to impose upon states dubious politicized ideas that have no relationship to the true issue. And here, we're referring to the ICAO web repository for information on conflict zones. We support the idea of itself of creating such a tool, but its format must comply with the provisions of the Chicago Convention and serve its intended purpose, which is combating terrorism. It must not be a tool for exerting political pressure. Civil aviation plays the role of one of the main drivers of the economic development of the member states of ICAO, while it remains the most environmentally friendly, one of the most environmentally friendly modes of transport. And so we consider it unacceptable when lip service is paid to combating climate change, but at the same time there are attempts to put an additional financial burden on the civil aviation sector. And here we mean the proposal to develop and implement the mechanism for the global market-based measures. Clearly, diverting finances from the sector will have a negative impact on the rate of development of civil aviation and on flight safety. At the same time, there will be no improvement in greenhouse gas emissions, and according to some calculations, the emissions will actually increase. So it is also not difficult to imagine that the global market-based measure policy will have a negative effect first and foremost on developing states. On behalf of the delegation of the Russian Federation, I would like to express the sincere hope that the Assembly, guided by the principle of no country left behind, will take a courageous and carefully considered decision when choosing the particular variant of the global market-based measures that it wants to implement. It should be one that promotes sustainable development of the global air transport system and leads to greater safety and a real decrease in greenhouse gas emissions. Speaking of the equality of opportunity, I would like to note the fact that the 37th session of the Assembly unanimously approved Resolution A39 the ICAO policy on language services. This underscores that multilingualism is one of the fundamental principles to achieve goals of ICAO as the specialized UN agency. In this context, the delegation of the Russian Federation would like to express its serious concern regarding the continuing trend towards cutting the language services in ICAO. It is an unacceptable situation that a series of international ICAO events, such as meetings, symposia, and seminars, were conducted directly at the headquarters of the organization, but they were not provided with language services. We would like to recall that in accordance with this, the A3725, language services are an integral part of any ICAO program. This corresponds to the United Nations approach on this issue. And here we are referring to the UN General Assembly Resolution number 69/324, devoted to the issue of multilingualism in the UN system. And we also refer to the UN report on by the Joint Inspection Unit on multilingualism in the UN system, the course of implementation. On the 17th of October 2012, the government of the Russian Federation issued a statement on providing the GLONASS system for use to the international community on a cost-free basis. And we would like to confirm our commitment to the future development of the international cooperation in the interest of safety of international air navigation. We would like to inform the Assembly that during the assessment of the operational performance of the GLONASS system, which were conducted from January 2012 through April of this year, it was confirmed that accuracy and reliability of the GLONASS system fully meet the requirements of the ICAO standards and recommended practices. Considering that we expect that in the upcoming triennium we will see the deployment of other satellite constellations for global navigation, such as Galileo and Beidou, the delegation of the Russian Federation would like to express the hope that the Assembly will support the proposal to include in the ICAO work program issues relating to the international regulation of satellite navigation systems in order to increase safety and efficiency of international air navigation. As a contribution to the financing of this type of research, the Russian Federation proposes that our annual contribution to the SAFE Fund, which is $120,000, be used to this end. We would also like to inform the Assembly that the Russian Federation is carrying out the necessary procedures to ratify the Convention for the Unification of Certain Rules for International Carriage, which was done at Montreal on the 28th of May in 1999. It's the Montreal Convention of 1999. Again, I would like to wish all of the participants in the 39th session of the ICAO Assembly an efficient and fruitful work in the spirit of friendship and mutual understanding for the benefit of the entire global aviation community. Thank you for your attention.
Spasiba. Call upon Saudi Arabia.
أصحاب المعالي
Excellencies, the heads of delegations, Mr. the President of the Assembly, Mr. President of ICAO Council, Madam the Secretary General of ICAO, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to congratulate the President of the General Assembly, Dato Azharuddin Abdurrahman, for his election, wishing him full success. I would also like to congratulate the Vice Presidents and the heads of commissions for their nomination for these tasks. Ladies and gentlemen, the delegation of Saudi Arabia came to participate in the work of the 39th session of the General Assembly of this august organization, inspired by the preamble of Chicago Convention, providing that the development of civil aviation can contribute immensely to a friendship and understanding between and among nations and peoples of the world. While its misuse can pose a great threat to public order, the preamble provides also that we should avoid disputes between nations and peoples and promote cooperation, which constitutes the basis of peace. With this spirit, we came to this General Assembly in this beautiful city of Montreal to work in full transparency and adopt an approach that will enable us to come out with resolutions that serve the world and establish peace for all nations. Ladies and gentlemen, the previous General Assembly has requested ICAO Council, in cooperation with states and concerned organizations, to prepare a scheme for MBM measures in the field of aviation and submit it to this General Assembly. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia appreciates all the efforts made in order to prepare a compromise text for the scheme, which the Council of ICAO will submit to this Assembly. We would like particularly to thank the President and the members of ICAO Council and the Secretariat, as well as the Kingdom of Spain, United States of America, and all the states and organizations which have participated in the preparation of the draft MBM scheme. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has participated actively in these constructive efforts through the group of the Friends of the President and the high-level meetings convened by the organization. And we would like to appreciate the content of the working paper submitted to the General Assembly, because we consider it to constitute a basis of a compromise among states, carriers, and the industry. Ladies and gentlemen, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia calls upon ICAO to adopt policies for the reduction of greenhouse emissions without favoring any source of energy, and consider these sources of energy as complementary and not substituting each other. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia considers the initiative No Country Left Behind as an ambitious measure aimed at helping states to implement SARPs in the fields of aviation safety, security, economic feasibility, and environmental viability. In order to strengthen this initiative, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia invited the states of the world to a ministerial conference in Riyadh from 29 to 31st of August 2016 in order to devise the best ways and means to promote joint action in the fields of aviation safety, security, and facilitation among the countries members of ACAC and the countries in the Middle East. The ministers of transport and the directors generals of civil aviation in the states of ACAC and in the Middle East have adopted the Riyadh Declaration on the cooperation among the states of the region in the field of aviation security and facilitation, as well as the plan for safety and air navigation in the Middle East. Your August Assembly will consider two working papers submitted by the Council in this matter, hoping that these two papers will garner the support of participating states as well as organizations and the industry, because the outcomes of the Conference of Riyadh are in line with No Country Left Behind initiative. I would therefore like to declare that the custodian of the two holy shrines, King Salman bin Abdul Aziz, have agreed on a donation to the initiative No Country Left Behind of $1 million. Finally, I would like to stress that the ICAO is keen, as a member of the ICAO Council, to pursue cooperation with ICAO, states, and international organizations and all stakeholders for the achievement of the strategic objectives of civil aviation and raise up to the challenges. Wishing you all the success and hoping that you will reach resolutions that serve the world and peace in our planet. Thank you very much.
Shukran, Kingdom of the Saudi Arabia. Before I call upon South Africa, the next country to be Finland, India, Kenya, Egypt. South Africa.
Mr. President of ICAO Council, Mr. President of the 39th Assembly of ICAO, heads of delegations, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of His Excellency, the President of South Africa, Honorable J.G. Zuma, the government and the people of South Africa, kindly allow me to extend our warmest greetings. Before I continue with my speech, let me congratulate the Council of ICAO that has made history in this organization by electing the first woman, Dr. Fang Liu, to occupy the seat of Secretary General of ICAO. This is a step in the right direction. Thank you. This is the step in the right direction in the promotion of women in aviation. Let me also congratulate ICAO for recognizing and acknowledging the global disparities amongst the nations of the world thereby embarking on a new initiative called No Country Left Behind. We believe this initiative addresses the core challenges faced by aviation and air transport, being safety, security, facilitation, environment, capacity building, human and women resource development. It will ensure that challenges faced by the developing world will be addressed and bring them to acceptable global aviation standards and to conform to the standards and recommended practices. South Africa actively participates in a number of ICAO panels, working groups and committees. These include, amongst others, Aviation Security Panel, to which South Africa is a chair, Safety Management Panel, Accident Investigation Panel, Airworthiness Panel, and various others. South Africa also recognizes and acknowledges that air transport can play a pivotal role in creating employment opportunities, both directly and indirectly, through their linkages to local economic activities, raising income at both household and national levels, improving the balance of payments, and driving economic growth. And that is why we were among the first African states to sign the African Union Solemn Declaration of a Single African Sky to develop and promote air transport activities in Africa. In promoting and strengthening the effectiveness of the South African civil aviation, government established civil aviation entities, being Airport Company South Africa, Air Traffic Navigation Services Company, and South African Civil Aviation Authority. Kindly allow me to share with you just few of the many achievements of these state-owned companies to date. The South African Civil Aviation Authority is mandated to oversee and promote civil aviation safety and security in South Africa and foreign operators. The South African Civil Aviation Authority mandate covers over 12,000 aircraft currently on the South African Aircraft Register, with the current number of air operation certificates holders being 285. There are over 25,000 licensed personnel, which include over 17,500 active pilots, with the balance consisting of mainly maintenance engineers and cabin crew. In addition to exercising direct safety oversight over 132 licensed airports and 22 air traffic services units nationwide, the South African Civil Aviation Authority conducts educational safety promotion workshops to enhance aviation safety among the license and certificates holders. One of the key projects undertaken by Air Traffic and Navigation Services Company is the Very Small Aperture Terminal satellite communication system. Air Traffic and Navigation Services Company has been appointed by the Southern African Development Community SADC to implement and maintain the Very Small Aperture Terminal system, which links the states for air traffic services communication purposes, carries over 10,000 direct speech calls, and is responsible for eliminating most of the communication problems experienced by the states in the sub-region. HNS was also appointed to implement a VSAT network in Northeast Africa, commonly referred to as NAVISAT. In promoting air traffic services and air traffic safety in Africa, HNS is collaborating with several air traffic services providers in Africa and conducts cutting-edge training and capacity building programs on air traffic services provisions. The Airports Company South Africa continues to occupy the #1 position in global airport ranking in Africa. In addition, statistics provided by Airports Council International indicates that AXA is the busiest airport and in the lead in Africa in terms of safety and compares favorably with its American, Asian, and European counterparts. Finally, in line with the South African government's developmental imperatives, energy, security, and diversification of the energy matrix remains a key priority to ensure sustainability of economic activity and demonstrate consideration for the environment. As such, South Africa has 3 solar-powered airports. While on environmental issues, we are currently aware of the need to reach some consensus on the global market-based measures scheme, and South Africa is aware of the dynamic issues relating to this subject. Now more than ever, the world is looking at this assembly to come out with a resolution on how we will collectively tackle the environmental issues. We are confident that this assembly shall meet these expectations. Mr. President, Let me kindly thank you for allowing me to address the Assembly on behalf of the people and the government of South Africa. I thank you.
Thank you, South Africa. Now I call upon Finland.
Mr. President, Mrs. Secretary General, fellow delegates, ladies and gentlemen. As a Minister of Transport and Communications of Finland, I am truly honored to be here. This assembly can mark a significant turning point in the fight against climate change. By adapting the global market-based measure, our aviation community would be the first entire sector to take global action to self-regulate its emission of greenhouse gases. This would be a major achievement and set an example for other sectors to follow us in the spirit of Paris. Our planet needs this kind of leadership, and I am confident that by working together with a genuine will, we can achieve our goal. Mr. President, dear colleagues, I cannot overemphasize the importance of sustainability. It is our license to grow. GMBM is crucial for us to achieve our ambitious carbon-neutral growth 2020 goal, but equally important is to vigorously develop other primary components of the basket of measures. In this work, ICAO's role is indispensable. On behalf of my delegation, I wish to express my support for the work already done and underway in the Committee on Aviation Environmental Protection, especially related to sustainable alternative fuels. Sustainable alternative fuels hold huge potential to cut CO2 emissions, but we must take decisive steps towards making them an operational reality. We need a transparent and global sustainability criteria and a scientific evidence-based life cycle analysis for calculating the environmental gains of using sustainable fuels. We should also start a global discussion on incentives to use sustainable alternative fuels in aviation, and I warmly welcome the initiative from ICAO Secretary described in WEP 56. Although we need a robust GMBM to achieve our midterm goals, ultimately aviation needs to care of its own emissions, and sustainable alternative fuels play a key role in that. Finland is among the frontrunners when it comes to these fuels, and we can also do more. I challenge my aviation colleagues around the world to join us. Mr. President, as my second point, I wish to highlight another topic important to the Finnish government: market liberalization. As we all know, aviation is a truly global industry, and ICAO as a key player should develop and adapt a long-term constructive vision for international air transport liberalization, including the development of an international agreement by which states could liberalize market access. If ICAO would not lead this progress, sooner or later others may take the lead. Connectivity is the reason to promote liberalization in air transport sector. Restrictive air transport policy and lacking connectivity goes hand in hand. The key areas where ICAO efforts should be focused are the liberalization of market access and liberalization of air carrier ownership and control. Open and liberal air transport policy is also the best way to ensure the interests of our customers. As my last point, I would like to address the issue of smart regulation, which is one of the key priorities of the Finnish government. Our aim is to boost growth and jobs, as well as to facilitate business operations and citizens' everyday life by de- and re-regulating and reducing administrative burden while taking into account safety and environmental issues. Smart regulation is a tool for this. Regulation should not restrict the development. Instead, it should support innovations. Today's and especially tomorrow's regulation should be technology neutral. It is the right moment for performance-based regulation in aviation. We also now have excellent opportunity to put into practice these new regulation principles in our new aviation segment, unmanned aviation. I am convinced that we can reach our safety goals in a much more efficient way by applying performance-based regulation architecture on the remote piloted aircraft systems segment. And by doing that, we would avoid the potential trap of stalling the development of the segment due to overly prescriptive regulation. ICAO would then be the supporter of new technical innovations and solutions and not hindering the progress. I am convinced that we are on the right track when we, the ICAO, take concrete steps towards performance and risk-based aviation standards. Mr. President, I have touched upon only a few topics related to Assembly's agenda. We have so many important issues to be discussed in the coming 2 weeks, not forgetting the true cornerstone of ICAO and aviation, that being safety. I wish the Assembly all the best in its demanding task. Thank you.
Thank you, Finland. Now I call upon India.
Mr. President, honorable ministers and chief delegates, Madam Secretary General, ladies and gentlemen, I take this opportunity to congratulate the DGCA of Malaysia, Mr. Azharuddin, on his election to this Assembly. I deem it a privilege to make a brief statement before this August Assembly. I convey warm greetings from the people of India to all the distinguished delegates from all over the world. At the outset, I would like to take this opportunity to reaffirm India's commitment and support to ICAO towards fulfillment of its strategic objectives of safe, secure, efficient and environmentally sustainable development of international civil aviation through consensus and cooperation amongst ICAO member states. India will continue to support ICAO's endeavors to promote understanding, friendship, and peace among the nations and people of the world, in addition to promoting economic development, trade, and tourism around the globe. India is one of the fastest growing aviation markets with a market size of US $22 billion and aims to become the third largest in the world by 2022. This has been made possible due to a host of factors, including increased competition, low-cost carriers, modern airports, and improved technologies. Our domestic aviation has been growing at more than 23% this year, which is the highest among the major aviation economies of the world. India accords highest priority to safe and secure operations in civil aviation and reiterates its commitment to ICAO standards and recommended practices, be it airport operations, ANS provisions, or airport emergency services. The safety mantra for us is safety first, safety foremost, and safety forever. However, with rapid growth of civil aviation in coming years, there are several challenges, particularly the need to maintain high standards of safety and security. On aviation security, a national contingency plan and airport-specific plan to deal with unlawful interference has been put in place. As a permanent member of the Aviation Security Panel of ICAO, India has contributed immensely to the development of SARPS of Annex 17. In the recently concluded ICAO USAP CMA in October 2015, the effective implementation of 8 critical elements stood at more than over 99%, putting India's aviation security ratings in the top league. We support technical cooperation programs of ICAO in the fields of training and technical assistance. The Government of India and ICAO entered into a MOU covering a fellowship training program for developing countries with plans to train aviation personnel from ICAO member states. India is the largest contributor to COSCAP South Asia program, which provides assistance to Pakistan, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and Maldives. We will be offering seats to the South Asian countries free of charge for ANS Management's Master's Program jointly developed by the Airports Authority of India and ENASC France. With your permission, Mr. President, I also take the opportunity to bring to the attention of this Assembly some of the recent developments in Indian aviation and initiatives undertaken by India to fulfill its obligation towards the Chicago Convention and ICAO. In order to promote international civil aviation, we have followed a regime of liberal bilateral policy, including open skies regime with several states and regions around the world. In fact, our recently released National Civil Aviation Policy 2016 has extended open skies policy to all countries beyond a distance of 5,000 kilometers from India. The Indian airspace, including the oceanic area, is also one of the largest and busiest in the world. India has taken several steps to modernize its ANS. One of the most significant achievements has been the Indian satellite-based augmentation system, Gagan, which recently became operational, becoming only fourth such system in the world. Indian government has also introduced several policies and regulatory reforms to encourage private participation and investments in the air transport industry, including 100% foreign direct investment in airlines and airports. India has been at the forefront of the debate on climate change, including discussions on this subject at UNFCCC, ICAO, and other such forums. India has contributed significantly to ICAO through its Committee on Aviation Environmental Protection, where significant progress has been achieved in the CO2 and non-CO2 emissions. A resolution on climate change in this Assembly should outline actions to be taken by all nations towards reducing aviation-related emissions and working towards the global objective of emission reduction. We appreciate the initiative of the President of the Council to present a draft resolution on GMBM in the 39th session of the Assembly. We believe that the principle in differentiation on the principles of common but differentiated responsibilities, special circumstances, and respective capabilities should form the core of any GMBM scheme. We have made significant progress during COP21 in Paris last year, and it is important to recognize that and follow those principles in the agreement we are trying to achieve under ICAO. We always maintained that ICAO should follow bottoms-up approach with developed countries taking the lead as agreed in COP21 in Paris. We reiterate that developing countries have not yet reached their peak emissions, and they should be allowed to reach their peaking before they are subjected to any offsetting requirements based on a market-based measures. We do not agree with freezing of the carbon emissions for international aviation at 2020 level, as no such restriction has been imposed in any sector under the Paris Agreement. This would be regressive and would hurt the aviation sector, particularly in the developing countries, as their aviation sector has not yet matured. In the past, ICAO Assembly A36-22, it had been resolved that in respect of market-based measures, including emission trading, principles of mutual agreement and consent will be the basis of any emission trading system. This principle should be adhered to in ICAO, especially in view of the Paris Agreement in 2015, which explicitly recognizes the principle of consensus, rule, and follows an inclusive and transparent process with a multilateral approach. It is therefore mandatory for any scheme of global market-based measures for international aviation emissions adopted in this Assembly to honor the consensus rule. Mr. President, let me also take this opportunity to thank the Assembly for the faith it has reposed in India by repeatedly electing it to the Council of ICAO to act as a trustee of their interests. India hopes that this Assembly will again provide India the same opportunity to serve the global aviation community. Finally, Mr. President, I offer my country's best wishes for the success of this session and assure the full support of my delegation to all the positive measures taken by ICAO to strengthen international air transport. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, India. Now I call upon Kenya.
President of the 39th Assembly, President of ICAO Council, General Secretary General of ICAO, Council members, ministers, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Kenyan delegation, I feel honored to address this distinguished assembly. Kenya, as a contracting state, is delighted to participate in this 39th session of ICAO Assembly to discuss the growth of the aviation industry and to play its role in addressing the challenges of safety, security, environment, and the overall sustainability of international civil aviation. As a contracting state, we are committed to meeting our obligations to the international aviation community as we continue to build capacity within our Civil Aviation Authority to enhance its oversight role. Kenya is committed to supporting the work of ICAO and would like to commend ICAO in its continuing efforts of improving the overall safety and security standards in aviation through its Universal Oversight Audit Program and Universal Security Audit Program. In the last USOP audit, Kenya performed well above global average in terms of level of effective implementation. We are in receipt of the ICAO program on USOP and are expecting another audit in 2017. Kenya desires and remains committed towards the establishment of systems that will enhance global aviation safety. Ladies and gentlemen, we are privileged to host the ICAO Eastern and Southern Africa office in Nairobi in keeping our obligation to ICAO. Kenya continues to strengthen its aviation systems by working closely with this office as well as the Regional Safety Oversight Organization, known as the East African Community Civil Aviation Safety and Oversight Agency, CASOA. In this regard, Kenya would like to state that it will continue to support the work of ICAO regional offices, and in particular, the need to adequately resource the offices in a bid to strengthening their capacity to enable them reach out more in extending their services and assistance to member states. We will continue to facilitate the operations of the regional office in order to enhance the growth of air transport in the region and in Africa, and to support ICAO's No Country Left Behind initiative. Further, Kenya, as one of the pilot project countries, supports the partnership between ICAO and the United Nations Human Settlement Program, UN Habitat, that aims to work towards promoting interconnection and interrelationship between the airport and urban development. Mr. President, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, Kenya is at present continuing with the modernization of its air navigation system, services, infrastructure by replacing terminal and en route radars and navigation systems. Indeed, we are in the process of implementing some components of the next generation systems in the oceanic airspace in order to meet the challenges posed by the growth of the industry. Aviation security has been given high consideration by the government of Kenya, and we have put in place measures to mitigate the threats posed to aviation by enhancing surveillance and investing in screening facilities and equipment and improved security checks at all airports and borders. Kenya's East Africa School of Aviation, one of the 19 regional training centers of excellence worldwide, supports the capacity building efforts of not only Kenya, but also African states, so as to meet the demand in aviation growth. It currently offers training in air traffic control, various ICAO aviation inspector courses, engineering, aviation security, and other courses to both Anglophone and Francophone African countries. Ladies and gentlemen, Kenya remains an active member of the African Civil Aviation Commission in furtherance of the civil aviation in Africa. We have made considerable progress in the implementation of liberalization of air transport. To promote Africa's active participation in ICAO, Kenya would like to inform this Assembly of our intentions to seek re-election to the ICAO Council. It is therefore my humble request to distinguished delegates to support our bid for re-election to the ICAO Council. In conclusion, allow me to reiterate Kenya's commitment to the development of civil aviation within the region, and indeed worldwide. Mr. President, distinguished Council representatives, ladies and gentlemen, may I thank you once again for this opportunity to speak before you. I wish you fruitful deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenya. Now I call upon Egypt to take the floor. Egypt, please.
شكرا سيد الرئيس.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Arab Republic of Egypt, I have the pleasure to commend Mr. Abdul Rahman on his election as President of the 39th Assembly of the International Civil Aviation Organization. I would also like to extend my congratulations to the vice presidents and chairs of the commissions who have been elected to their credit. I also would like to convey the greetings of His Excellency, the Egyptian Minister for Civil Aviation, who wishes you the best of success in your work. I would also like to express my deep thanks to the authorities and the people of Canada, Quebec, and Montreal for their warm welcome for my delegation. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, the delegation of the Arab Republic of Egypt would like to pay tribute to ICAO's support for regional cooperation. ICAO provides advice and technical assistance for civil aviation policies and administrations, and this allows them to meet their responsibilities as set out in the Chicago Convention and in line with the strategic objectives of our organization. The Council has adopted cooperation measures which enable ICAO and regional organizations to coordinate their efforts and the efforts of states to implement these standards and recommended practices. I also wish to pay tribute to ICAO's cooperation efforts in the interests of member states so as to ensure the highest levels of safety and security. On this score, I am proud to announce that the Arab Republic of Egypt has just built a modern building to house the ICAO regional office for the Middle East in Cairo, the capital. This way, the office will be able to properly carry out its duties and accommodate its expanding activities in the coming period, which will be one of growth. In view of the foregoing, I would like to reiterate to Egypt's strong attachment to the standards and recommended practices of ICAO for aviation safety and security, and for all fields of activity of ICAO. Audit activities have served to bring the country into line with standards and recommended practices. I would like to remind you that Egypt has always sought to achieve development of civil aviation, and we have established links to cover as many countries as possible. Egypt has taken the lead in the region and has the honor to have been chosen to head a number of regional and Arab organizations. I would like to say that Egypt today heads AFCAC, and it is also at the helm of the DG of AFCAC, and we are leading African and Arab countries in achieving the various strategic objectives for civil aviation. Egypt has also ratified the Cape Town Convention on mobile equipment and aviation protocols. We are working with the competent authorities to implement the protocol and the convention. Egypt has always attached particular importance to infrastructure development in the air transport sector, and this is borne out in the construction of 3 international airports to meet the needs of passengers in the different regions of Egypt. We have also upgraded Egyptian airports with the latest state-of-the-art cargo and baggage services. We also have surveillance systems that are top of the line, and we have created a new satellite system. We've upgraded the radar system so as to cover all of our airspace. We also have created facilities that enable private airlines to establish new connections for domestic routes. Egypt is in a prime position at the crossroads of 3 continents, and it's a popular tourist destination. This is why we believe that the efficiency of the air transport sector is an essential factor in achieving our national policy goals and objectives, especially in view of development of air traffic in the Middle East. We intend to protect the sector and keep it going and keep it in line with international standards. We are grateful for all the efforts in the sector to protect the environment. This is an important matter. Egypt has been taking part in the meetings organized by ICAO, in particular the group of the Friends of the President of the Council, and the high-level meetings that were held to discuss this matter with a view to introducing a policy to reduce CO2 emissions. In this respect, I would like to say that Egypt has adopted its first plan of action for the reduction of aviation emissions. With regard to the No Country Left Behind initiative of ICAO, this requires us to step up cooperation. I would also say that the Arab Republic of Egypt is pleased to be one of the founding members of ICAO, and we're also we've been a member of the Council since its founding. We take our responsibilities very seriously. We want to further the standards and recommended practice, and we want to play a positive role in promoting safety and security of international civil aviation. To conclude, I would like to extend my thanks to the President as well as the members of the Assembly who have allowed us to make this statement. Egypt would be very grateful to the organization's member states if they could support our re-election to Council in Group 2. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Shukran, Egypt. I'll call upon Spain, and after Spain will be Nigeria, Argentina, Niger. Spain, please.
Buenas tardes.
Good afternoon, Mr. President of the Assembly, President of the Council of ICAO, Secretary General, distinguished delegates. I would like to begin by congratulating the President of the Assembly on his election and to wish him every success in his mandate, which is now beginning. It is a genuine pleasure for me to participate in the 39th Assembly. In the last 3 years since the previous Assembly, we have witnessed continuing growth of global air traffic, which has been very beneficial for all. Spain has not been left behind in this sector growth, and we are keeping our position among the countries with the highest level of air traffic. In 2015, there were over 207 million passengers going through our airports. This growth was made possible by available capacity of Spanish airports under the excellent management of AENA, and an increase in passengers carried by Spanish airlines. Spain's commitment to ICAO is reflected in the ongoing work which we have been doing since 1951 in the Council of ICAO. This year, as in previous assemblies, Spain will renew its commitment, and we will be standing for election in Group 2, and we will continue to work to achieve the highest levels of safety. For this, we must look to the Global Aviation Safety Plan and the USOP audit program. I'd also like to refer to other emerging challenges, such as the development of unmanned aircraft, which affords opportunities for growth and will imply new requirements to ensure safety. New technologies are developing quickly, and ICAO and its member states must be prepared for this new form of aviation to come on stream. Spain has been working toward this by developing special legislation for remotely piloted aircraft. I would like to stress that Spain has spared no effort to move toward a global agreement for protection of the environment and market-based measures. In July, the Spanish administration hosted an informal multilateral meeting in Madrid to make progress on designing a emissions credit scheme. I hope that the spirit of Madrid, which was collaborative and based on open-mindedness and seeking common points of consensus, will be replicated here in Montreal, and we can achieve a global agreement. I invite all states to voluntarily join this scheme once it's established. To implement carbon offsetting and reduction plans, it will be necessary to develop and promote programs for cooperation and training, which will make it possible to apply the lessons learned. In Spain, we have established partnerships for cooperation with our Latin American brothers and sisters, and I invite you to join the Alliance for Sustainable Aviation and or promote similar initiatives. At the last assembly, we witnessed tragic air disasters this year. As 3 years ago, Spain wants to demonstrate its commitment to victims and their families and highlight the need for there to be work done in ICAO on a continuing basis. Valuable lessons may be drawn from these tragedies which will improve safety. And this is the case of the Germanwings flight, which gives us pause for thought about new measures to prevent similar cases. I strongly hope that the Assembly, which begins today, will serve to achieve a safer, more sustainable civil aviation system, which will contribute to the development and well-being of all regions of the world and their inhabitants. Thank you very much.
Gracias, Spain. Nigeria, you have the floor now.
Mr. President of the 39th Assembly, President of ICAO Council, the Secretary General, ladies and gentlemen, it is more than an honor to address this august assembly of experts, managers of global aviation. But I must begin by congratulating my friend, Dato Azaruddin Abdurrahman, for his election as the President of 39th General Assembly. May Allah see you through. Distinguished delegates, we are here today to deliberate and reflect on the development that have taken place since the 38th Assembly of ICAO, and to find new and even better ways and strategies of improving civil aviation beyond the next triennial, improvements and strategies that should continue to, 1, make air transportation safer, more secure, more efficient, and more environmentally friendly, and 2, to create a better regulatory and competitive operating environment that ensure reasonable profitability for our airlines, airports, and air navigation service providers and other investors in our industry. 3, to promote the comfort and convenience of consumers of our services, and 4, to address industry emerging issues and challenges in order to accomplish and cope with the projected astronomical growth in global traffic by 2030. Dear delegates, our industry has become one of the greatest contributions to the advancement of modern society, a vital engine and catalyst for socio-economic growth and development, especially in emerging economies. In order to fully accomplish this critical role, we must all continue to support ICAO's leadership, initiatives, and collaborative efforts to ensure safety and security in the industry. Our objective and desire should therefore be for aviation to be safe and secure in every part of the world. This is why Nigeria fully supports the ICAO No Country Left Behind initiative. I therefore wish to use this opportunity to again call on member states, especially the developed countries, financial institutions, and donor agencies to support this initiative with a view to assisting states to implement ICAO standard and recommended practices. Nigeria, even prior to this initiative, has been collaborating with ICAO and the African Civil Aviation Commission, AFCAC, to promote safety in the West African sub-region through the hosting and substantial funding of the Banjul Accord Group Aviation Safety Oversight Organization, BAGASU, a regional safety organization which has its headquarters in Abuja, Nigeria's Federal Capital Territory. It gladdens my heart to say that as today, there is no state in our sub-region on the list of states with significant safety concerns. Nigeria will continue to champion the advancement of civil aviation in our sub-region through the continued hosting and sponsorship of ICAO safety, security, air transport, and environmental programs, including the comprehensive regional implementation plan for aviation safety in Africa. Within the last 3 years, we have made major strides to promote safety in our airspace. These were confirmed with the success recorded by Nigeria in recent ICAO audit. We also successfully retained the FAA Category 1 rating. Presently, we are reviewing the Primary Aviation Legislation, Civil Aviation Act 2006, to ensure that Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority continues to exercise requisite powers and full autonomy to regulate aviation safety without political interference. Distinguished delegates, I'm equally glad to mention that Nigeria has continued to record significant improvements in the area of aviation security, with the installation of modern security equipment at our airports, continuous implementation of our national aviation security programs, and up-to-date training of aviation security personnel. Only recently, we carried out vulnerability analysis of our airports and put in place measures to curb any act of terrorism. Nigeria's excellent outing at the last ICAO security audit, which took place in June 2015, attests to our efforts in this area. We, however, believe that ICAO and member states must continue to work closely and put in place proactive measures to curb the ever-increasing threat to the security of civil aviation. It is also noteworthy to mention that Nigeria has continued to participate in the ICAO PKD and support ICAO's efforts to provide assistance to other West African states in their resolve to introduce e-passports. We are also in consultation with the United Nations to establish aviation security training schools in Nigeria, and that these schools will serve not only Nigeria, but the entire sub-region. Nigeria reaffirms its belief that ICAO should be the forum through which all aviation technical issues relating to the environment must be resolved. I therefore express the full support of Nigeria for the efforts being made by ICAO to minimize the impact of aircraft engine emissions on the environment, as well as the work of the Council Committee on Aviation Environmental Protection. I would like to use this privileged opportunity to commend ICAO and member states for the adoption of the resolutions A37-19 and A38-18 in 2010 and 2013, respectively. These achievements were made possible as a result of our ability to put aside our differences for the common good and sustainable development of air transportation. I therefore wish to appeal that as we deliberate and work towards having a resolution on global market-based measures, we should ensure that our decisions would not negatively impact the growth of air transportation, particularly in the developing and emerging economies. Nigeria, on its part, has submitted its State Action Plan on Environment to ICAO and has been making assiduous efforts to implement the basket of mitigating measures in the action plan to reduce emissions. We have continued to pursue our policy of fleet renewal and implemented measures to enhance the efficiency of air traffic management, including performance-based navigation, as well as installed solar airfield lighting at our airports, amongst others. Nigeria remains a major provider of facilities for international civil aviation. The government, in its efforts to establish Nigeria as an aviation hub for West and Central Africa, it has put in place a Nigerian aviation master plan that included the establishment of a new national carrier, a maintenance, repair, and overhaul center, an aviation leasing company, and concession of our airports. All of this will be through public-private partnerships. We also have developed a policy on remotely piloted aircraft, which is being strengthened now to ensure safe and secure aviation within our region. I am, however, convinced that continued cooperation and collaboration amongst member states and ICAO will facilitate the achievement of aviation safety and security, as well as an environmentally friendly aviation industry globally. One area where such collaboration is urgently needed is in the capacity building and development, especially in developing states. Nigeria generously contributed to the ICAO Human Resource Development Fund. I wish to appeal to member states and donor agencies and partners to support and donate generously to this fund to help build capacity in developing states. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Nigeria is indeed privileged to have been a member of this August Council since 1962, and we truly cherish the opportunity to collaborate with other member states to advance the work of the organization for greater efficiency and effectiveness in line with the ICAO strategic objectives. In the same spirit, Nigeria would like to use this opportunity to solicit the support of ICAO member states for her re-election into Part 2 of the ICAO Council. In addition, Nigeria also requests your support for the election and re-election of those African states which have been endorsed by AFCAC to the ICAO Council. Nigeria is also delighted to refer to the candidature of Dr. Olumiwa Bernard Aliyu, President of ICAO Council, for re-election to the post of the President of the Council in November 2016. We solicit and thank ICAO member states for their support of his candidature. I will not conclude and I will not belabor you too much, but I deem it very important to sign off by appealing to member states to ensure that no country is truly left behind in their region. Thank you.
Thank you, Nigeria. The next country will be Argentina, then Niger. Argentina.
Mr. President, President of the Council, Secretary General, Your Excellencies, Ministers, Heads of Delegation, delegates, ladies and gentlemen. As National Administrator of Civil Aviation for the Republic of Argentina, I would like to first of all congratulate the President of the Assembly on his election. And I am convinced that under his leadership, this Assembly will achieve the best possible results. Today, the Argentine Republic is once again taking an active role in the assembly of this organization, which is certainly the biggest civil aviation event in the world and has caught the attention of the whole world. It is a pleasure to be here, and Argentina has been a standing member of the Council of ICAO since the first assembly in 1947, and all that time we have been working tirelessly through the permanent mission here in ICAO's Secretariat and by providing professionals in all fields. Less than a decade ago, Argentina launched a very successful project to enhance civil aviation by creating ANAC, the Civil Aviation Administration, which is autonomous and which oversees everything relating to aviation, and we are ISO certified for quality management. This year, with the new government, this administration has a new hierarchy. There is a new transport ministry, and the government of Argentina places great importance on transport, in particular civil aviation. The current government also cares very much about protecting the environment in all activities, and so it has created a Ministry of the Environment and Sustainability to work together to introduce any and all practices that help reduce emissions, sustainable development of aviation with the support of all stakeholders in the sector. The Argentine Republic is more determined than ever to support ICAO's work, in particular in achieving the strategic objectives that have been established. In keeping with ICAO guidance, Argentina has adopted a plan to implement the state safety program, which is well underway. Argentine experts are also collaborating on the implementation activities at the regional level in this respect. In the field of aviation personnel training, Argentina, together with the Latin American region, is seeking greater leadership. The establishment of the Pan American Civil Aviation Administration is a joint regional project which is to be based in Buenos Aires. We're also establishing CIPE, which is a training and research center and a center of excellence, which has Trainer Plus accreditation, and it offers over 60 special training courses in the fields of safety and security. This has been designated as the first safety oversight training center of the region and will be one of the first providers of such courses. One of our strategic objectives in relation to training is to better structure CIPE, and I must say that CIPE has trained over 60,000 people throughout Latin America in all its history. I would like to say that through CIPE, Argentina is making an active contribution. This especially in terms of translation into Spanish of web content. In accordance with ICAO standards, Argentina has established Accident Investigation Board, and it has an autonomous and independent body which is independent from the Civil Aviation Authority, which has jurisdiction for investigation of accidents in Argentinian territory and territorial waters. The state of Argentina is also actively participating in the development of an important project to create a regional cooperation mechanism, ARCM, for accident and incident investigation in the South American region, SAM. After years of isolation and excessively protective policies which hindered development, the new government of Argentina is now focusing on global investments and development of tourism and business. And we expect significant growth of commercial air transport in our country as a result of this. Commercial air transport is going to have intelligent solutions which will help us move away from isolationist policies that we have employed for so long. In this respect, we are going to be phasing in measures which we see as necessary to make sure that our country participates fully in civil aviation activities in the world. And we reiterate our commitment to this organization, to regional organizations, and to their member states. We would like to assure all that despite our growth, we intend to fully meet standards in terms of sustainability, transparency, and safety. The government of Argentina believes that climate change is one of the greatest challenges before humanity, which requires joint actions by all states. And we recognize the hard work being done by ICAO and its member states in cooperation with the aviation industry and other stakeholders to respond to the mandate from the last assembly to create a market-based measure scheme. In this spirit, we supported the global initiative for a scheme to offset carbon emissions, CORSIA, with a view to mitigating and preventing increase in emissions in civil aviation. We want a fair, non-discriminatory scheme that takes account of the differing capabilities of the states, and Argentina has taken part in the various initiatives of the organization, such as the CAPE technical meetings, high-level meetings, the AAG, etc. This government will continue committing efforts and resources to come up with a scheme that we want, that will not impede the development of our routes or be bad for our economies. Argentina has worked hard to counter climate change through voluntary efforts toward mitigation. The actions adopted are set out in the first version of our plan of action for emissions reductions. And it is available in English. And in the multidisciplinary team headed by ANAC specialists, together with stakeholders, we will be able to update this plan and submit it to the organization next year. With regard to technological developments, among other significant undertakings, Argentina has driven a joint project with ANAC, INVAP, which is a state enterprise, and the Secretary General of ICAO recently visited the facilities, and the aim is to implement GBAS technology. The Argentine GBAS prototype is in the pilot phase in the international airport of San Carlos de Bariloche. Argentina is once again standing for member of Council in Group 2, which is those countries that provide the most facilities for international aviation. In this specific area, Argentina is fully in line with the standards in providing air transport services in our region, which includes the Antarctic and oceanic regions. And we provide search and rescue services over an even broader area. And we are an important relay in this satellite warning system. Recently, state enterprise IANA was established, and it is main provider of air navigation services in the country. It has recently launched an ambitious technological plan with a view to meeting the highest standards of technology and service quality. I would like to conclude by extending our thanks to the many states that have already assured us of their support in the election, and we would appeal to all delegations present so that Argentina, together with other states on the Council, can continue their work on a daily basis and ensure that international civil aviation may continue to develop in a safe and orderly fashion on the basis of equal opportunity among all states as set out by the Chicago Convention. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Argentina. Gracias. I will take it two more statements, only two more. Niger and Ecuador. We start with Niger.
Monsieur le Président.
President of the 39th session of the ICAO Assembly, ministers, heads of delegation, President of the Council of ICAO, Secretary General, distinguished guests. I'm addressing you for the first time as the Minister of Transport of Niger. And so, first of all, I would like to start by speaking on behalf of the President of the Republic. I have the pleasant task of conveying to the international aviation community the warm greetings of the people of Niger. Next, please allow me to express my deep gratitude to the governments of Canada and the province of Quebec for all of the efforts undertaken to make our stay a pleasant one and to ensure the success of this 39th session of the Assembly of our organization. I would also like to take this opportunity to convey the heartfelt congratulations of my delegation to Mr. Abdul Rahman from Malaysia on his election as the president of this august assembly. I would also like to congratulate the President of the Council and the Secretary General, who now, as on many other occasions, have spared no efforts to ensure the good organization and overall success of our work. Mr. President, the government of the Republic of Niger is convinced of the essential role of air transport, and it is aware that this mode of transport is a vital link in the development of a landlocked country. The government has always worked actively to support the organization, ICAO, in its mission for the safe and orderly development of international air transport. As regards flight safety, we welcome ICAO's assistance through the audits and the related programs which have contributed to implementing the corrective action plans. This has thereby ensured the national safety oversight system. The certificate from the President of the Council, which we just received, is evidence of the recognition of the progress made in improving the effective implementation of the applicable ICAO standards and recommended practices. President of the ICAO Council, Secretary General, I would like to take this opportunity to speak before this eminent audience to assure you of the commitment of the authorities of Niger to uphold this trend of improvement in safety and airport security in our country. As regards air navigation safety, many actions have been taken in conjunction with ASECNA. ASECNA is our air navigation services provider, and we greatly appreciate their services. It should be recalled that ASECNA is a model for the cooperative management of the airspace, and we work together with all of the member states to ensure air navigation safety in a safe and efficient manner in our airspace. As regards security and facilitation, various actions relating to airport infrastructure have been conducted in recent years. There was a total overhaul of the main airport, and we have closed several regional airports. We have established the National Civil Aviation Safety Program, the National Civil Aviation Safety Quality Control Program, the National Civil Aviation Safety Training Program, the National Civil Aviation Facilitation Program, and we have organized multiple courses for staff training and qualification with the assistance of ICAO. Niger has participated in the adoption of the Joint Declaration by African Civil Aviation Ministers, the Declaration on Aviation Security adopted at Windhoek in Namibia in April 2016, and I can assure you that my country will implement the resulting plan of action. Mr. President, the international civil aviation community is faced with a challenge, namely to build the human resources capacity. To this end, Niger commends the establishment of plans and programs developed by ICAO to assist the African states in implementing the recommended practices and standards, and especially the ICAO Comprehensive Implementation Plan for Safety in Africa, the AFI Plan, and also the AFI-SECPAL Plan and the Human Resources Development Fund. We also welcome the activities of the African School of Meteorology and Civil Aviation. This is a multinational ASECNA school located in Niger. Since 2014, it has been an ICAO Trainer Plus Center of Excellence. This regional center trains approximately 70% of the civil aviation staff in 20 different African countries. To this end, we would like to reaffirm that we are available to do our part in all of the development initiatives led by IAMAC to meet this challenge of the growing demand for aviation professionals, and this affects the entire aviation industry. Mr. President, as regard the elections that will come up in this session, I wish good luck to all of the candidates, and I hope that I would like to ask the Assembly to provide their overwhelming support to the candidates presented from Africa to the Air Navigation Commission and to the ICAO Council. I would also like to ask you to support, and I would like to give my support to the re-election of the President of the Council, Dr. Bernard Aliou. I would like us to have unanimous support for him, for his re-election. I wish you full success. Long live international cooperation, long live ICAO, and long live Niger. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Niger.
The last statement of today is Ecuador. Ecuador, you have the floor.
Señor Presidente.
President of the Assembly, President of the Council, Secretary General, distinguished delegates. As Director General of Civil Aviation of Ecuador, I would like to begin by congratulating on my own behalf and on behalf of my government and the people of Ecuador. I'd like to congratulate Mr. Abdel Rahman on his election as President of the Assembly. And I'd also like to congratulate Dr. Aliou and Dr. Fan Yu on the organization of this major event. On the occasion of the 39th session of the Assembly of the International Civil Aviation Organization, Ecuador wishes to reaffirm its strong commitment to the principles expressed in the Chicago Convention of 1944 and the strategic objectives of ICAO regarding the safe, orderly, economical, efficient, and sustainable development of civil aviation worldwide. The Republic of Ecuador has been an ICAO contracting state since August 20th, 1954, and since then, Ecuador has actively participated as an ICAO Council member and as a permanent representative to ICAO at the headquarters, contributing to the work of the main committees, supporting the implementation of policies and initiatives of the organization in safety, security, air navigation, efficiency, environmental protection, legislation and regulations on international civil aviation. Recently, in the last decade, the government of Ecuador has overhauled its governance structure with the implementation of the National Plan for Good Living that prioritizes the human being and the well-being of humanity. The plan is based on strategic objectives which will shape economic growth and social, technological, and productive development. The government of Ecuador has made aviation and airport infrastructure and the national air navigation system a strategic state objective. In this context, Ecuador restructured the civil aviation institution, its laws, rules, and regulations with robust processes for safety oversight. And it has also invested heavily in airport infrastructure to make the Ecuadorian aviation system efficient, safe, and sustainable. The multiplier effects have been had an immediate knock-on effect on well-being in my country. The Civil Aviation Authority of Ecuador prioritizes safety, and for this reason it has amended the civil aviation law as a substantial measure for aviation growth, while harmonizing the technical regulations and procedures of the National Civil Aviation Authority. All of this is a major achievement in safety oversight. Ecuador has achieved compliance rate of 89.32% as a result of the ICAO ICBM mission under the USOP, Universal Safety Program of ICAO. And our goal now is to maintain and exceed that rate. Ecuador is committed to citizens and environmental protection, natural resources, and biodiversity. Our government strongly supports the reductions of carbon dioxide emissions from commercial aviation. And for this reason, it has introduced strong national measures and regulations to support the global targets. Today, we are home to the Baltra Ecological Airport in the Galapagos Archipelago, which is the first airport in the world to have recognition as an eco-airport. Ecuador will be hosting a visit of the ICAO Council in March 2017 with an agenda on aviation and the environment to support the initiative of this governing body and the global aviation community. At this 39th session of the ICAO Assembly, Ecuador is presenting its candidature for election to the Council of the organization for the 2016-2019 triennium, in accordance with the agreement of the South American Rotation Group, Part 3. As such, Ecuador requests the kind support of the distinguished delegations of ICAO member states present at this assembly, which will enable our country to further contribute to the sustained development of the International Civil Aviation Organization and rise to coming global challenges. Thank you very much.
Thank you, gracias, Equadio. That's all the statements that we could take today. We continue again tomorrow. First of all, we will convene the executive committee in 9 o'clock in the morning, and we will again be in the plenary about 10:30, and of course the Economic and Legal Commission will also convene. Before we adjourn the meeting, may I remind you that we have two events this evening. One is the Edward Warner Award to be held in this hall from 6 o'clock to 6:30, and all delegates and spouses are invited to attend the Edward Warner Award. And the second event is the reception hosted by the President of the Council and the Secretary General in the honor of both the recipient of the Edward Warner Award and the delegates to the Assembly. The reception by the President and the Secretary General will be held in the Conference Center on the 3rd and the 4th floor from 6:30 to 8:30 tonight. In view of the large representation at this Assembly, please note that the President of the Council and the Secretary General have indicated that they will not have a receiving line during the reception. That doesn't mean that they will not receive your handshakes and hugs. You can do it without lining up to meet both of them, I'm sure. So we see you in both of the events tonight. And before leaving, you are kindly reminded that to take all your belongings, since this Assembly Hall will be reset for the Edward Warner Award ceremony, where all delegates will be invited to sit in any vacant seat, as the nameplates will not be applicable anymore for tonight. So enjoy your reception tonight, and we see you tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. Thank you.
You have to go.